Hello, my name is Dale Ander. I'm a member of the Control Center Development and Support team, and I'm here today to introduce you to IBM Sterling Control Center. Let's get started. Control Center is a monitoring and management tool. It's able to manage Connect Direct servers. It's also able to monitor this long list of applications and more, B2BI, Connect Enterprise, Sterling Secure Proxy, Global Mailbox. Plus, via something we call OSA, Open Server Architecture, you can actually instrument other applications to post data to Control Center, allowing Control Center to monitor your own applications, things that it doesn't monitor now. So Control Center is a single application, and it's comprised of two products. One's called Director, the other is called Monitor. There's a single user interface, and if you're entitled, you can view functions provided by both through the one UI. There's also a single database, and it's used to store all the Control Center configuration data, which means servers defined to Director, you'll see them in Monitor, and vice versa. Know that Control Center can run in a container, also can run as an on-premise app, just an executable you run on your server or in your VM. And we also provide a full set of RESTful APIs. Basically anything the user interface can do, you can do because our user interface uses the APIs. Lots of times if I want to learn how to use one of those APIs, I'll just put the browser in debug mode and look at what's going on behind the scenes. So Director, it allows remote management of Connect Direct server configurations. You can manage net maps, net parms, more. I think I have another slide on that. You can also use it to update Connect Direct servers and deploy new versions of Connect Direct. You can do license management, certificate management, and you can run lots of reports. I would say if you've got more than one copy of Connect Direct, Director is pretty nice because no more having to go to different servers to log in to update a net parms or whatever, or make sure all your net maps are in sync. Just use Director to manage it all. So Control Center Monitor, it allows you to monitor the status of servers. Are they up? Are they down? It also allows you to gather statistics and events from these servers. That way you can know when processes run, when transfers occur. And what Control Center does is it gathers all these events and activities from the servers it's monitoring, and it normalizes that data and builds what we call events or notifications. And events is the better word. And these events go through what we call the rule service, and an event can trigger one rule, so there are priorities to these things. You want to put it in the right order in case your criteria match more than one of the rules. And when I say the criteria, if your events match more than one of these rules, it picks the right one, and can use those rules when they're triggered to perform actions. And these actions include send in an SNMP trap, or generating an alert, or running some kind of user task. And you can also send emails. And that's where the notifications come in. You can send traps and emails through these actions associated with rules that are triggered. Now, we also have something called service level criteria. Rules are nice, but they need an event to trigger them. Well, what service level criteria allow you to do is, say you have a process that's supposed to run by a certain time, or a series of transactions that shouldn't take more than, I'm making it up, 15 minutes. Well, rules need something to trigger them, and service level criteria can be used to generate events when things don't happen. You'd set up an SLC that says process XYZZY needs to run at 5 o'clock in the morning on Fridays, and put that into place, and then if that process doesn't run, an SLC event is generated, and you can have a rule to watch for it, and then you can be notified. And this is just a subset of what you could do, but Monitor, like Director, also provides a set of reports that you can run. Control Center uses what's called role-based security. This means you define roles, and then you associate those roles with users. And in those roles, you can define the activities that role is allowed to do. Sometimes it's none, sometimes it's view only, sometimes it's managed. The other thing you can do with a role is you can associate one or more DBGs with it, and DBGs allow you to limit the data that may be viewed. You can also assign certain servers or a subset of all your monitored servers to a role, and that would restrict whatever user IDs are associated with that role. They can only be seeing the data from those servers, and they can only see the status for those servers. Now, Control Center is made up of services, a lot of services. Here's a short list. There's the node service, and there's many kinds of node services, and there's a one-to-one mapping between a node service and what I call a legacy server type that's being monitored. So there's, for every Connect Direct server, there's a node service behind the scenes running in Control Center. For every B2BI server, there's a node service running behind the scenes. The event monitor, it's used for the non-legacy server types that are being monitored. Remember I said you can use the OSA Open Server Architecture API to generate events from applications that Control Center doesn't monitor out of the box. Well, the event monitor is used to process that data that you're posting to Control Center from your own applications. Then there's the metadata service. It's a little bit like the rule service. All the events pass through the metadata service, and it's used to associate metadata with each event. Sorry, I was trying to find another word, but basically it allows you to add extra data to the events that are generated that you can use rules to watch for. The data visibility group, that's used to segregate data. So you can set up users and restrict the servers that they're allowed to see, but what if within a server there's data that file transfers and processes that run that some users should see some users should see the others? Well, when that's the case, that's what the data visibility group is used for. You can set up what we call DBGs, and they have criteria that match events, and if your DBG criteria match an event, then that event is tagged with that DBG, and then users can have DBGs associated with their abilities, and based on the DBGs associated with the user, then they may or may not see those events. So it's a way to segregate data. Then I talked about rules. There's a rule service. The rule service processes all the events that are generated by the system, and if those rules are triggered, pretty much one event can trigger one rule, no more, no less. At least at a high level. There are exceptions to this when DBGs come into play. But when a rule is triggered, it'll perform the actions associated with that rule. And those actions can be send a trap, generate an alert, run a user operation, or send an email. I don't have this written down, so I'm just going by memory. The process summary service, it's used to summarize the events associated with a process, and if those processes do file transfers, they're summarized also. The thinking being that instead of saving all the details, all the detailed events associated with each process, which include the transfers, you can just retain the summarized version of that data and have less to retain over time. There's the event processor service. It's used to monitor what we call EPs. Control Center can be made highly available by having multiple event processors. And each event processor pretty much does all the same things as the other does, except for one. It's called the CEP, the controlling event processor. And know that the SLC service only runs in the controlling event processor. But all the other event processors, their event processor service, they're constantly looking to see if that CEP falls down on the job. Maybe it's taken down for maintenance or something. And when they see the CEP is gone, then they all want to become the CEP. Only one wins. And whoever wins, has the ability to take any of the monitored servers assigned to the CEP at the time and reassign them to the other EPs that are still running. The schedule service, that manages reports that you have scheduled to run at certain times, as well as you can tell the system when to remove old data. Maybe you only want to retain 30 days of events, or maybe you only want to retain 7 days of summarized data. It's up to the schedule service to make sure that that database pruning occurs when it's supposed to. And the last service I'll mention is the configuration service. It's used by Director to allow you to do management of objects on ConnectDirect servers. And I guess I didn't list many of them, or you can't see them, but the net maps, the init parms, the functional authorities, secure plus parameters. If it's a configuration kind of object for a ConnectDirect server, you can manage it with Control Center. And it's pretty nice. Control Center will keep versions of these objects. Maybe you can think of a time where you've updated a net map and you've made a bad change. You can use Control Center to go get the previous version and restore it in just a few straightforward steps. And these configuration jobs, they can be told to run immediately or to run sometime in the future, maybe during some maintenance window that file transfers won't be occurring or something. So I've got a couple of pictures. I'm not much in the way of using graphics, but this top one kind of shows how Control Center can have multiple EPs. It can have multiple web servers to kind of provide both high availability as well as spread the load. If you're monitoring 30,000 ConnectDirect servers, as I know at least one customer is, you probably will need to set up multiple engines, multiple event processors to handle that kind of load. The ERs, those are what I call the event repository servlet. It runs in the app server along with the logic that handles the web browser. And the event repository, it's used to catch events that are posted to it by the Open Server Architecture APIs. And it's really just posting events to Control Center. And in fact, this picture over here, you can kind of see this B2BI SFG. It's polled. It's what I would call a legacy type. The ones in purple are legacy. But this GHAM, if you could see it, stands for Global High Availability Mailbox. It actually posts events. It uses the OSA interface to post events to Control Center. And your applications could be up here in the other. MQ, MFT, SSP, those are monitored via MQ, but I'll tell you there's a newer version of SSP that actually post events to Control Center using the OSA architecture, and it's very nice. This picture shows having a load balancer in between the web console users, so they only have one URL to go to. And this is the database for Control Center. Down here, it's kind of showing the flow of events out of the SLC service. But know that coming into the SLC service, these servers, somehow they get their data to the engines, to the event processors, and those things normalize the data obtained and turn them into events. Those events, they go to the metadata rule service, where you may append some extra data to them. Then they go to the rule service, and the rule service may or may not find a match to that event, but if it does, it'll take the action. But as the event comes out of the metadata rule service, it also goes, and I missed one step, there's the data visibility group. It's not in this picture, but that's because it would have not been used during the SLC processing. But events go to the data visibility group, they go to the metadata rule, then they go to the rule, then they also, in addition to going to the rule service, they go to the SLC service, where it looks to see, are there any SLCs that match this event? And if so, it handles it. And if there are SLCs active looking for events that don't get them, then did not occur events are produced, and they go through the rule service, and other actions can be taken. That's the end of my intro to Control Center. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot I haven't told you about, but I hope you're interested enough to watch more of these videos, but I appreciate you watching this one. Take care, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.